Hey, this is ThinkerThunker. I'm sure you've seen the IMAX Bigfoot footage. It went viral, went crazy. Everybody was talking about it. I covered this way back in 2014. And this man right here left me a comment saying, hey, that's me. I was there. And here he is, Mr. Reeve, on his IMDb page. Here's some movies he's worked on. He's a director, a cinematographer. And here is the IMAX documentary the Bigfoot clip came from. It's called Great North. Check it out. It was out there on Hulu. That's where I saw it. But anyway, you can see right here in the credits, under directors, Mr. Reeve is listed, along with a Mr. Dignard. Then comes along a YouTuber named Bigfoot Tony, and he claims Mr. Reeve, a dedicated, well-respected professional, is a dirty, stinking liar, and that he was not a director on the movie at all. And now that is a bold accusation. You better have some serious proof before you say something like that about anyone. Then this Bigfoot Tony goes on to claim he was in contact with the real director, a Mr. Dignard, and that Mr. Dignard also claims Mr. Reeve is a liar, saying there was no Bigfoot. It was just a crew hand he had out there running with the herd. Case closed. So, does Bigfoot Tony have the evidence to back this amazing claim? Does Bigfoot Tony deserve to be a well-respected, contributing member of the Bigfoot community? Or is Bigfoot Tony nothing but a Bigfoot phony? Let's check it out. Okay, so let's listen closely as Bigfoot Tony lays out his evidence as to why Mr. William Reeve is a liar. Here we go.
Hey, Bigfoot Tony here. A friend of mine, Chris, whom I really trust.
Hey, Bigfoot Tony, is this a joke? Your buddy Chris that you really trust? This is your proof for attacking a man? Let's keep going. It gets worse from here. Okay, so now watch as Tony goes in for the kill.
On IMDb, Martin J. Dignard, Great North director. Very clear.
Tony thinks he's already proved his case by showing this page saying where it says Great North director Martin J. Dignard. Tony, this is Martin's private personal page, kind of like his resume here on IMDb. So it's not going to show everybody's credits, just his. Let's keep going though.
And through this email we have, he talks about, well, here's the film, again, confirmation, Martin J. Dignard and William Reeve examine the landscape of the Arctic and long-standing Inuit traditions. William Reeve, aka Bill Reeve, was the person who ThinkerThunker interviewed. But let's remember that he was just a cameraman, and Martin was the director, and also Chris.
Okay, hold on, Slick. Let's back up. Tony, can you read right there? Now, this is the problem for Tony. Now we're on the Great North, the actual documentary page, where it lists everybody's credits. And right here under directors, it says Mr. Dignard, sure. And it also says, what's that say right there? What? William Reeve. But did you notice how Tony, he just ignored this? Now here it gets laughable. In Bigfoot Tony's desperation to prove that William Reeve is only a lowly cameraman, cinematographer, he comes to his IMDb page and he reads this line right here. Cinematographer, camera and electrical department, and what does that word say right there, Tony? Come on, read that word right there and listen.
Here's William Reeve, cinematography, camera and electrical department.
Oh, he skipped right over it, didn't he? Now, here is another example of Bigfoot Tony pulling the exact same thing where he totally ignores one element so that the ultimate answer can be the one he wanted it to be. This is the Marble Mountain Bigfoot video, which Tony did a video of. And what we're looking at here is BFRO actually did their own investigation, and they did a really good job. They sent a 6-foot tall guy up on the Marble Mountain Ridge there, had him walk down. The only problem is the BFRO guys didn't have their camera in the exact same location as the original video. And so we get something like this. Bigfoot Tony used one of my old tricks of where you take 2 shots and you overlay them to see what kind of results you get. But look, you can just tell that these do not line up at all because they're filmed in different locations. So I could change the scale and I could play with it from here on out, but it will never, ever line up. But that didn't stop Bigfoot Tony. He said, okay, look, see these rocks over here on the left? Those line up good enough. So that was good enough for him. Well, look at these lines though. They're a little off, but no problem for Bigfoot Tony. He brings it over and says, look at that. The Marble Mountain on the left is actually the same size as the BFRO 6-foot tall investigator. So in Tony's mind, it's a hoax. But if you did this, if you rescaled it so that this big rock up here in the top left corner lined up better, and then brought it over, suddenly the Marble Mountain guy looks like a giant. But the thing is, you can't use this overlay because these shots were filmed at 2 entirely different angles, and it will never line up. It will never work properly, but it was good enough for Tony. So here is where Tony runs out of steam. He doesn't have anything else to say, so he's forced to come back to the document. And I'm glad he did, because I've got a question for Mr. Dignard or Chris or Bigfoot Tony, whoever wrote this thing up. Here, this is supposed to be Mr. Dignard saying, sorry to disappoint you, but it was indeed a crew member, all in black, the grip deck, who was trying to hide. And then it drops down here. In other words, it wasn't a Bigfoot, it was just a crew tech. Then he, down here, says the grip technician was Chris Tate, who had a backpack. Funny way to remember him. So here's my question. I can barely remember what I wore yesterday. But Mr. Dignard or whoever would have us believe that he remembers 19 years ago what just one of the crew happened to be wearing that day. Why? Why is that? What was so memorable about some guy wearing black in a backpack that it would stick with you for 19 years? And down here, Mr. Dignard is trying to throw Mr. Reeve under the bus again by saying, but Bill was not involved in the edit. In other words, he wasn't even there. Well, he wasn't there at the edit. No offense, but who cares about the edit? We're talking about the day of filming. That's what's important here. And here's the big question. Down here at the bottom, you close by saying, we were on a Zodiac for that shoot. It's a small helicopter. We dropped Chris on the other side and asked him to run so the caribou will stay on our side. All right, let's stop right there. So caribou can run about 38 miles per hour. Here comes a herd of caribou. They're going to be past wherever you're filming in probably 30 seconds. So how was it that you had time to drop Chris somewhere? I mean, how did you know exactly which direction the caribou were going to zig or zag? Was that just luck? And a second question is Chris the world's fastest man times 3? What made you think that you could weight a man down with a backpack, drop him out with a herd of stampeding caribou who can run, again, 38 miles per hour? What made you think he was going to be able to run so the caribou will stay on our side, yet stay out of the shot? How would that be possible? Another question is, every production company has insurance because you've got helicopters and you're around dangerous animals. What insurance company would allow you to, again, take a man, weight him down with a backpack, and send him out into a herd of caribou? Okay, Mr. Dignard or Bigfoot Tony, whoever wrote this, last question. In the clip, we see a dark figure out there that is running so smooth, most people think it was on a bicycle, because we all know what humans look like running. We bob up and down, and our arms are moving, okay? But this, his head is perfectly still and his arms are perfectly still. You attempt to explain that away by saying it feels like he was on a bike because the Zodiac helicopter was lower. Lower than what? Are you saying the helicopter was flying lower than the caribou flying along the ground? I mean, no offense again, but we've all seen the shot. It wasn't filmed from a helicopter flying along with them. It was a stationary shot that panned as the caribou went by. So it seems odd that you can remember Chris wearing all black in a backpack 19 years ago, but you forgot, even after you've seen the shot, that you weren't filming it from a helicopter. But even if you were, the main question, how would that create some sort of optical illusion? How would flying low in a helicopter alongside a herd film the herd as normal, the way they would normally look? But if there's a human running alongside them, it's going to cause the optical illusion of the human to suddenly look like it's riding a bicycle. No offense, Mr. Dignard, but that's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. And I'm afraid you're going to have to give us some video examples that show us that optical illusion. Bigfoot Tony, you failed miserably, 100% in trying to prove Mr. William Reeve was a liar. Your proof and what you consider proof is laughable. And it's been that way on what few videos I've seen of yours. I disagree with you 100% of the time on any point I've ever seen you try to make. And yet you've got over 40,000 subscribers. And you know what that proves to me? It proves skeptics don't care about proof. They don't care about facts or accuracy or reason or logic. Skeptics only want to hear a video belittled and hear someone say Bigfoot is a hoax. That's it. And it doesn't take much to be able to do that. And if you don't like what I'm saying here, just remember you started this little dance. You attacked Mr. Reeve and called him a liar and did it with zero proof. That is low. Mr. Reeve, unfortunately, is no longer with us and can't be here to defend himself. So I'm telling you for him, you owe Mr. Reeve a public apology. And if you ever attack a respected professional like that again, try having a clue and some proof. That would be new for you. All right, everybody. Thanks for hearing me out on this. I'll put a link up to the interview Mr. Reeve granted me. And at the end of our interview, Mr. Reeve continues and he tells the full story of what it was like being there. He tells some of his other tales and he gives us his thoughts on Bigfoot. It's pretty amazing. Give it a listen. You'll see how earnest and sincere and how nice and what a gentleman this man was. Give it a listen. All right, everybody. Take care.